Good morning students. Today we move to your second chapter, that is consumption analysis. First of all, you have to know about what is consumption. Consumption means if we buy any product and we use that product, that is consumption. For example, if we buy chocolate and we consume that chocolate, so that is consumption. Let us see what J.M. Keynes said about consumption. He said that consumption is the sole end and object of economic activity. That is, consumption is the important activity of an economy. If there is no consumption, then there will be no economic activity, said by J.M. Keynes. Then let me move to introduction. Consumption is the essential activity. The quantity and quality of the consumption determines the standard of living of the people. Consumption is the act of satisfying one's wants. Consumption is defined as the use of goods and services for the satisfying wants. In economics, consumption is studied both at micro level and macro level. Consumption is the beginning of economic science. In the absence of consumption, there can be no production, exchange, or distribution. Consumption is also an end of production. Producers produce goods to satisfy the wants of people. As already said, consumption is essential for economic activity. The quality and quantity of the product determines the standard of living of the people. So, for example, if we take tea, that the standard of living of the people is determined by the quality and the quantity which we consume. We consume tea. The difference from what we consume is different from what we export to USA. So this determines the standard of living of the people. What is satisfied through consumption? So in economic, consumption is studied both in micro level and macro level. Consumption is the starting point of economic activity. If there is no consumption, there will be no production, exchange, or distribution. Producers manufacture goods to satisfy wants of the people. Then human wants. We move to human wants. In ordinary language, desire and wants means the same thing, but in economics they have different meaning. Wants are the basis for human behavior to buy and consume goods. In ordinary language, desire and wants means same, but in economics the meaning of both is different. So wants are the basis for buying and consuming the goods. Next we move to characteristics of human wants. Human wants. First characteristics is wants are unlimited. Human wants are countless in numbers and varies in kinds. When one want is satisfied, another want crop up. Human wants multiply with the growth of civilization and development. So wants are numerous. We cannot count our wants. If we buy any product and attain satisfaction, then another want will create. If the nation develops, then human wants will multiply. The next characteristics is wants become habit. Wants become habit. For example, when a man starts reading newspaper in the morning, it becomes a habit. So, in the case with the drinking tea or chewing pans, if we continuously doing some activity, then it will becomes our habit. For example, a man starts reading newspaper in the morning, it will become the habit. The next characteristics is wants are satiable. So we cannot satisfy all our wants at the same time. We can satisfy particular wants at the given time. When one feels hungry, he takes food and the wants is satisfied. So all our wants cannot be satisfied at the one time. We can able to satisfy a particular wants at the given time. For example, if we feel hungry, we can able to take food and we can able to satisfy our wants. The next characteristics is wants are alternative. There are alternative ways to satisfy a particular wants. Example, idli, dosa or chapati. If our wants, we choose, we have the choice to satisfy our wants. For example, If we are in hungry, we can either have idli, dosa or chapati to satisfy our wants. So there is a choices to satisfy our wants. The next characteristics is wants are competitive. All our wants are not equally important. So there is competition among wants. Hence we have to choose more urgent wants than less urgent wants. All our wants are not equally important. We will always satisfy our urgent wants than the less urgent wants. For example, if one person have to pay his school fees and also he wants to go to tour, which ones he will attend first? He will prefer first paying his school fees than going to tour. That is, wants are competitive. Next characteristics is wants are complementary. Sometimes satisfaction of the particular wants requires the use of more than one commodity. Example, car and petrol, ink and pen. If we want to use some product, we should buy another product together to utilize that product. For example, if we buy a car, without petrol we cannot able to drive that car. And if we buy a ink pen, without filling in we cannot able to use that pen. So that is wants are complementary. The next characteristics is wants are reoccurring. Some wants occur again and again. For example, if we feel hungry, we take food and satisfy our wants. But after some times, we again feel hungry and want food. Some wants occur again and again. So for example, if we feel hungry and had our breakfast, then again we will feel hungry for lunch and wants will occur. So wants occur again and again. We see about the classification of goods. Wants are classified into necessaries, comfort and luxuries. First we see about necessaries goods. Necessaries. Goods which are indispensable for the human being to exist in the world are called necessaries. For example, food, clothing and shelter. To live in this world, we must have food, clothing and shelter. This is the basic wants of people. So, this is the necessary. Next is comfort. Goods which are not dispensable for life but to make our life easy, convenient and comfortable are called comforts. Example, TV, fan, refrigerator and air conditioner. The product which is not very important for our life but we find more convenient and comfortable if we use that product. Example, TV, fan, refrigerator and air conditioner. So this is the comfort goods. These are comfort goods to make our life easy. Next we see about luxury goods. Goods which are not very essential but very costly are known as luxury goods. For example, jewelry, diamond and car. However, for people with higher income, they may look necessaries or comfort. These goods are not essential but this is very costly. So that goods is called luxury goods. Higher income people, after attaining both necessaries and comfort goods, they will want to attain luxury goods. For example, diamond, jewelry and car. Good morning students. The next topic is cardinal utility analysis. In this, there are various laws. The first law is the law of diminishing marginal utility. The introduction. H. Goosen, an Australian economist, was the first to formulate this law in economics in 1854. Therefore, Jevons called this law as Jevons' first law of consumption, but credit goes to Marshall because he perfected this law on the basis of cardinal analysis. This law is based on the characteristics of human wants, that is, wants are satiable. So, this law of diminishing marginal utility was first formulated by H. Goosen in the year 1854. Note this point. So, G1 called this law as Goosen's first law of consumption. When Marshall perfected this law on the Basis of cardinal analysis. This is measured the utility. In this, we can able to measure the utility. This law is based on the human wants and human wants are satisfied. Next we see about definitions. Marshall states the law as additional benefits which a person derives from a given increase of a stock of a thing diminishes with every increase in the stock that he already has. That is, if a person buy a car, in this first car he will attain full satisfaction and utility. Then if we buy second, third or fourth car, his utility and satisfaction level will decline. So increase in the stock will diminishes the benefit. So next we see about assumption. The first assumption is utility can be measured by cardinal numbers such as 1, 2, 3 and so on. So utility can be measured by cardinal numbers, that is 1, 2, 3. That is the measurement. The second point is the marginal utility of money of the consumer remains constant. The utility of a money should not change in this process. This is very important. Then another assumption is, the third assumption is, the consumer should be a rational consumer and his aim is to attain maximum satisfaction with minimum expenditure. The consumer should be rational, that is, they should have the knowledge to differentiate which is good and which is bad, and the main aim of the consumer is to attain maximum satisfaction with minimum expenditure. The fourth assumption is the aim of the commodity consumed must be reasonably in size. The commodity which the consumer consumes should be same in weight, quality, taste and color. The sixth assumption is the consumption of goods must take place continuously at a given point of time. That is, the goods should be consumed continuously without any delay or gap in the given period of time. The seventh assumption is there should be no change in the taste, habit, preference, passions, income and characteristics of consumers during the process of consumption. That is, taste, habit, preference, passion, income and characteristics of the consumer should not change during this process. Next we see about the explanation. The law of diminishing marginal utility states that if a consumer continues to consume more and more units of the same commodity, its marginal utility diminishes. This means that the more we have of a thing, the less is the satisfaction or utility that we derive from the additional unit of it. As we already seen, as I already explained, the more we consumer gets the same products, the utility and the satisfaction level of that product will diminish, will decline. The next one is illustration. In this you can see this table, this illustration I will explain you. In this process the consumer consumes 7 apple continuously. Look at the table, there are units of apple, total unit and marginal unit. Total unit is the total satisfaction the person derives from the apple. The marginal utility is out of that total satisfaction, how much satisfaction it derives from that apple. The marginal utility is out of total utility, how much satisfaction the consumer derives from that apple is total utility. So while consuming first apple, the total utility is 20. The same he derives in the marginal utility also. When second apple is consumed, the total utility is 35. From that we should subtract the total utility we obtained previously, that is 20. So we have to subtract that utility what we previously obtained, that is 20. So 35 minus 20 is 15. Like this the marginal utility declines and at last it reaches 0 and become negative. When marginal utility becomes negative, the total utility also will decline. You can see through this table. Now you come to that diagram. You see the diagram. Now see the diagram. Y-axis is total utility. X-axis is the unit of Apple. Marginal utility is marked as a bar diagram. In this, see the line of marginal utility. It diminishes, and when it is reaches 0 and negative, it falls beyond x-axis. You can see in this diagram. Okay, the curve on the top of the bar diagram is total utility curve. This curve increases and reaches the Q point where total utility and marginal utility is equal. That is 0 point. Then it starts declining. Hope you understand. Next we move to criticism. Okay, the first criticism is utility cannot be measured numerically because utility is subjective. The first criticism, that is utility cannot be measured by numbers because that is feelings and satisfaction which cannot be measured. The second assumption is this the second criticism is this law is based on unrealistic assumption, that is no reality in this assumption. The third criticism is this law is not applicable to invisible commodities. Invisible commodities are in lump sum and cannot be bought in small pieces. Example, houses that we cannot be bought into small pieces. So this law cannot be applicable for these commodities. So there is a exemptions to this law, that is hobbies, drunkards, misers, music, poetry, readings are the exemptions for this law. So that's all about the law of diminishing marginal utility. Next we see about the importance or applications of the law of diminishing marginal utility. The first important point is the law of diminishing marginal utility is one of the fundamental law of consumption. It has applications in several fields of study. So law of diminishing marginality law is the fundamental for the consumption. There are different applications in several fields of study. It has several applications, several fields of studies. The second point is this law is the basis for other consumption laws such as law of demand, elasticity of demand, consumer surplus, and the law of substitutions, etc. So the law of diminishing marginal utility is the basis for all these laws. The third point is the finance minister taxes a more moneyed person more and a less moneyed person less. When a person's income rises, the tax rates rises because the marginal utility of the money to him falls with every rise in his income. But the law of diminishing marginal utility is the basis for progressive taxation. If the income increase, the utility of the money falls. The more money if a person have, then the usefulness of that money will decline. So law of diminishing marginal utility is the basis for progressive taxation. The next important point is this law emphasizes an equitable distribution of wealth. The marginal utility of money to the more money is low. Hence, redistribution of income from rich to poor is justified. More moneyed persons' marginal utility is low. So they should redistribute the income from rich to poor. So that is justified. The fifth point is Adam Smith explains the famous diamond water paradox. Diamond is scarce, hence its marginal utility is high and its price is high. Even though it is not very much needed, water is abundant. Water is abundant, hence its marginal utility is low and its price is low, even though it is very much essential. So diamond is scarce that we cannot get in abundance. So if we buy a single diamond, our marginal utility will be high and the cost of the diamond is also high. Whereas that diamond is not very essential as compared to water. Water is abundant. We can get more water. So the marginal utility of that water is low, though it is very essential. This is important point. So that's all about the law of marginal utility. Good morning students. Today we are going to see about the law of equimarginal utility. The law of diminishing marginal utility is applicable only to the want of a single commodity. But in reality, wants are unlimited and these wants are to be satisfied. Hence, to analyze such a situations, the law of diminishing marginal utility is extended and is called law of equimarginal utility. It is also called the law of substitution, the law of consumer equilibrium, Gauss's second law, and the law of maximum satisfaction. We already seen the law of diminishing marginal utility, that is applicable only to the wants of single commodity. But in reality, the wants are unlimited. So in that situation, we use law of equimarginal utility for the analysis. It is also called as law of substitutions, the law of consumer equilibrium, Gauss's second law, and the law of maximum satisfaction. Next we see about the definitions. Marshall states the law as if a person has a thing which he can put to several users, he will distribute it among these users in such a way that it has the same marginal utility in all. For if it has a greater marginal utility in one use than another, he would gain by taking away some of it from the second use and apply it to the first. If a person has 50 rupees, he likes to buy both apple and orange. In that, the money spent on both goods should be equal, and also they should attain maximum satisfaction in both apple and orange, so that is his both wants are satisfied. If he buys 10 apple for 20 rupees and 15 orange for 30 rupees, here the satisfaction level of orange is greater than apple. So in this situation, he should make equal satisfaction by reduce the orange and spend the money on apple. So now he gets the equal satisfaction in both apple and orange. Next is assumption. The first assumption is the consumer should get maximum satisfaction of both his wants. The second assumption is the usefulness of goods should be measurable. The next one is the money spent on both should be equal. Then fourth assumption is the consumer's income should be given. The fifth assumption is there is perfect competition in the market. There should be a perfect competition in the market. The next one is the price of the commodity should be given. The price of the commodity goods that we compare should be mentioned. The last assumption is the law of diminishing marginal utility operates. Next we see the explanation. The law can be explained with the help of an example. Suppose a consumer wants to spend his limited income on apple and orange. He is said to be in equilibrium only when he gets maximum satisfaction with his limited income. Therefore, he will be in equilibrium when there is a formula that is a marginal utility of apple divided by price of apple, that is equal to marginal utility of orange divided by price of orange, equal to k. The k represents the constant marginal utility of the money. So if a consumer wants to spend his limited income on apple and orange, he is in equilibrium only when he gets maximum satisfaction from his limited income. That is, marginal utility of apple divided by price of apple should be equal to marginal utility of orange divided by price of orange equal to k. That is, k is the where the price of the goods is constant. Example, marginal utility of the apple is 50. Take it, the marginal utility of the apple is 50. Then consider the price of the apple is 10. So 50 divided by 10 equal to 5. Here we take the marginal utility of orange is 20 and consider the price of the orange is 4. So the marginal utility of orange divided by price of orange, that is 20 divided by 4, that is equal to 5. So here we attain the value of both apple and orange is same, that is 5. So here the equilibrium point is obtained. In case the marginal utility of apple divided by price of apple, which we found that the value that is less than the marginal utility of orange divided by price of orange is less. So in that case we have to transfer the money from apple to orange, because the value of the satisfaction level we obtained from that apple is less than the orange. So we should transfer the money from apple to orange. We reduce the number of apples, and by using that money we should buy extra orange, so that we can able to obtain the equilibrium point in this case. Now look at the table. There are 6 units of commodities. Then apple total utility, apple's total utility, marginal utility, and orange total utility, marginal utility. The another column for formula, that is we already seen, that is marginal utility of A divided by price of apple, and marginal utility of orange divided by price of orange. In this, when he consumes first apple, his total utility is 20 and marginal utility also same. The total utility of orange is 30, the marginal utility also same. Then we have to apply the formula considering the price is 1 rupee. So 25 divided by, here 25 divided by 1 equal to 25 for apple. Then for orange 30 divided by 1 rupee, that is 30 for orange. So as it goes on, so we have to calculate like this for every 6 units. The marginal utility declines as we seen in law of diminishing marginal utility. Same like the law of diminishing marginal utility, we should subtract total utility from previous total utility to get marginal utility. Here we see the second unit. What happened, the second unit of apple he consumes. If he consume the second apple, the total utility is 45, and if we subtract the total utility from the previous total utility, that is 45 minus 25. So we get the value of 20 in marginal utility. So see in orange, here the on column is, the formula column is missing because the price is 1 rupee. So if we divide that 1 rupee, marginal utility divided by price, no. So if we divide 20 divided by 1, the same value we will get. So there is no formula column here. For orange also we have to calculate like this. 41, we the second unit, from the second unit of orange, if he consume, he get the total utility is 41. If he subtract 41 minus 30, that is the previous total utility he get. So 41 minus 30 is 11. So if we divide that 11 from 1, we get the same value, that is 11. So we have to do like this for all 6 units. When he consumed fifth orange, his marginal utility is 4. He attained the marginal utility is 4. And when he consumed sixth apple, his marginal utility also 4. So from this we can understand, if he wants to attain maximum utility in both, he should buy 6 units of apple and 5 units of orange. With his income of 11 rupees, he can buy 6 apple and 5 orange. For each rupees 1. Now see the diagram. In this there are 2 diagrams for apple and orange. One for apple and one for orange, where x-axis represent unit of apple and orange. Y-axis represent marginal utility of apple and orange. In that, see the center black line that represent the marginal utility of orange and apple is equal. When he is in equilibrium, that is equal point. When he buy 6 apple and 5 orange. Now we see the criticism for this law. First criticism is, in practice, utility cannot be measured, only be felt. So utility cannot be measured, only we can feel that. The second criticism is, this law cannot be applied to durable goods. So this law cannot be applied to durable goods. For example, TV, fridge, washing machine, which we can store for a long period of time, which we can use for the long period. That is durable goods. So that's all about the law of equimarginal utility. Hope you understood.